Okay. Yeah, I just want us to talk about kind of like climate dramaturgy. So, as we know, Zoe Svensson for High Tide, we've been working with Zoe for a while on climate dramaturgy, and I'm actually quite new to the organisation, so I'm really wanting to speak to more people around what climate dramaturgy means to them. You know, we're talking to like organisations, other artistic directors, but I think as writers, as artists, like what does climate dramaturgy mean to you? That might be too big, so in your own terms, in your own way, like what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I guess firstly kind of defining them separately in terms of like dramaturgy is obviously that arrangement and kind of composition of narrative.
Yes.
And I think for me there's definitely an element of it being around awareness, about pulling in an awareness of climate into those elements of dramaturgy, but that's across production potentially. So not only, you know, is it about kind of, is this story telling a story about about climate dramaturgically, it's also about, you know, how would this story be produced in a way that's you know, sustainable, that has elements of kind of being able to be kind of limiting its impact on the environment.
So I think there's two things there, what you said. I think there's something around our stories and narratives around climate change, climate action, whatever, climate justice. But I think there's also around the bit before the production. It's the thinking around how is the environment going to affect putting on a production, or even in the elements of which we write. And I think it's, you know, it's working our way kind of like before we start, because a lot of the time when people think around, you know, like carbon or anything to do with kind of like the environment and climate, when we're putting on a production, it feels like it's an afterthought. Do you know what I mean? It's like going like, okay, well, when we're building a set, let's make sure, you know, things are recyclable, or, you know, we're borrowing from other organisations, you know, just stuff like that. But I think with climate dramaturgy, what I'm coming to understand is it's the pre-thinking, it's that bit before kind of thing, I think it
ripples through all those points in the process. I think dramaturgically speaking, because dramaturgy is very much embedded in that process of writing or devising, so you know, to be able to truly kind of embed that climate element into, I'd say element, but I'd say in terms of draw out that climate element rather. I think it's more a matter of, like you said, it's not affixing something to a piece of work, it's about finding where that place is in any given work, because that is the world that we live in.
That's true.
You know, these are the conditions of the world that we live in, that we can't really kind of, we can shy away from them, but how helpful is that from a kind of artistic and dramatic point of view?
I agree, and I think it's about like really bringing in everybody into the conversation. Like I feel like it's you know, whose responsibility is it? But it's all of ours. If we kind of understand why and where it needs to come in, I think it's like what is our responsibility and what can we do? What can I do as a writer? What can I do as an artistic director? What can the production team do? Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like it's like taking those elements. What would you?
Yeah, I think having it be part of that communication all the way throughout a process. I think that's kind of rather than, as you said, finding yourself near, you know, midway through a production and then only kind of really
thinking what should we absolutely
question to the fore. I think it's finding the earliest opportunity to really embed that awareness of how our actions, you know, from writing to all of those elements.
Absolutely,
from that,
I agree.
Interact with, you know, our planet, our climate. So.
You know, so as I said, I'm still really understanding climate dramaturgy. And for instance, we just finished a tour, and I was saying to the team, oh, we should, you know, get the cast and crews and like gifts, you know, like to say thank you. And then High Tide's producer Hannah was like, yeah, what we do actually, instead of like buying something new, yes, we give them a card and whatever, is part of the gift is actually maybe buying something in their name, you know, like gifting something in their name that could either like it goes towards a charity or something else. I didn't think that actually that's also a part of climate dramaturgy. It's actually around waste of resources, or you know, that kind of, and I never saw it that way before. I never kind of realised. So when I say there's so many elements to this, I think it's actually quite big, And I think sometimes when we talk about climate change or climate action, it feels so big. It feels like, oh, that's a really big kind of issue. And I think it's around, as I was saying before, how we kind of break it down and make it work for ourselves. And I don't think it's going to be perfect or we're going to get it perfect, but how we can kind of really break it down, you know? Because I just think otherwise like with most things that feel big, you don't do anything. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, this is just way too big. I can't even begin. And I just think it's around definitely obviously talking to other people and seeing what journey they're on, and just trying to break it down a bit, make it less kind of overwhelming and big, I suppose, you know?